Hello, this is Jason again with LMGI, continuing with SolidEdge fundamentals. We're going to pick up now with sketching in the ordered mode of modeling. I'm going to create a new empty file, metric. We're going to first do this activity, which is an Ibeam. I won't do it probably exactly like the book, but it will be a good reference for you to use. Notice I am in the ordered mode. We're going to do a simple sketch rather than an extrude. The workflow is a little different in ordered mode. You start the command first, and then you select your plane. In this case, a coincident plane is fine. So now I'm in what is called the sketch or profile environment. I call it flatland sometimes because you only have X and Y to draw. You have your two-dimension drawing tools, lines and arcs and curves and circles, and then you have some relationships that you can apply after the fact. And here you have kind of like snaps. These are key points that are locatable with a checkbox on. It means it's a locatable key point, like an end point or a midpoint. And then you have your dimensioning tools. Smart Dimension is your kind of a do-it-all, jack-of-all-trades type of tool that has some tricks with the keyboard. And then you have more traditional distance between, angle between, and coordinate style dimension. So these have a little extra capability sometimes. I usually start with Smart Dimension, and if I can't get exactly what I want, I move on to one of the other distance betweens. We'll talk about that a little bit. First, let's just start drawing that I-beam. Now in the book, I believe they have you do the line command, which is fine. They have you just kind of roughly draw on the screen. It's good practice to draw approximately to size if you can. There is a grid that you can turn on, and then there's some really great grid options. One that might be helpful, this is mostly just an FYI, show the readouts. So this would kind of give me a rough idea where my mouse is as I draw. So I'm about -50 in the Y. This I-beam is about 120 tall. So you'd want to draw it somewhat close so that as you apply dimensions it behaves. It adjusts in small increments rather than large moves that may distort the shape. So I'm probably going to turn those off. I don't really need them, but you may like them. So as you draw, Intelli Sketch is finding the horizontal. We talked about this in one of the first sketching activities, but I'll just recover it. I'll tap A. This little circle with a cross is design intent, so come back in there and make sure you get your, and there again, alignment indicator is finding another element. Sometimes you need to brush that element and come around. You see this is picking up an end point versus a point on, so that will be attached to that end point very nicely. You know, again, we covered some of these things, but I'm just going to recover them a little bit. So these little relationships are all created if you hover and wait for the ... Quick Pick will actually show you what's connected to what and allow you to pluck one specific element out if you wanted to. So that's kind of a brief overview. So this is the result of a tangent, that little circle. If I deleted that and I needed to manually apply one, you can apply a tangent relationship like that. So let's just roll through. I would probably do this little I-beam a little differently. I really like the rectangle command because it draws, you know, 4 lines for you that are vertical and horizontal. It really can do a lot of work for you. And in this case, I can use it to help me draw this I-beam. I'll show you how. So I got 2 dimensions. Why is that? Again, a reminder from the earlier activities. Intelli Sketch has a setting to auto dimension if I key in a number, so I find that useful. And you'll see there's some other settings for cursor size and extra relationships. I would probably continue on and do a couple more rectangles like this. Kind of imagine these are going to be areas that I'm going to cut away, right? And then my cutting tool is going to be my trim command, which kind of works like a hot knife and cuts through the elements that I want to be removed. And it joins them all with connect relationships. So now it's a matter of maybe doing something really easy like equals. I may make these two equal. Let's make these two equal. Let's make the upper and the lower equal, and then I'll make this equal to this. There is a setting under Inspect where you can turn on relationship colors. So what that will do is change the color to a black, and you can look in your options for settings regarding that. As you fully control the shape, it will start to change to a black color. Horizontal vertical, which is another very useful. This can align 2 points. And it can also make if you just click on a line that's not straight, it will make it straight. In fact, that's a horizontal vertical relationship right there. So I think we need probably a couple more. We need a width. I'll make this 25. And then I'll do a distance between with my smart dimension and make this 25. And if at some point you're starting to wonder how come this isn't turning black, we have a great tool, Relationship Assistant. Again, I think I mentioned this already, but you can use Show Variability, and if I look at this, it looks like it has the ability to move up and down so that the T, see the thickness of the upper and lower can change. They're not really lined up to each other, and that should be easy to fix. So I'll just go and grab probably horizontal, vertical. There's usually 2 or 3 different ways to achieve what you want, and so that should keep it up and down. I got to run it again. I should. This should be a little more obvious, I think, but okay. So the width of the upper and the lower, I forgot to make those equal. Actually, I can see the lack of equal. So see, there's an equal there. There isn't one between here and here. So there we go. That was the last thing that we needed. Now, another thing they show you in this activity is using the variable table. If you right-click, there's a variable table. There's a full table that you can use. You can build formulas here, rename variables. You can right-click and show the formula, and you can right-click and show the name or just show the value. If I wanted these two to be tied together somehow, I would probably want this one to be equal to this one. So I'll have this number drive this one. So if I double-click this, and I just come over here and touch 25, it'll put the variable name in there for me, and then I can accept. And then if I click in space, you'll see that dimension is blue, meaning it's driven. It's actually driven by this 25. So that's pretty cool. And then if I want to see the variable names, you can right-click and show the names, and then if you open the variable table, you could go in there and rename them. So the 95 will call this W, 120 will call this H, and I'll call this T, and I'll call this T2. So there's my shape. So I'm going to right-click and show values again. And remember, we're still in a sketch, so you would typically close out from the sketch which returns you back to the 3D environment, and then you would extrude that if you wanted to. And the other activities that they have you do, for example, this E, which is just kind of a mess, will select it either in the Pathfinder or in the graphic window, and you do Edit, Profile. And if I recall, they have you do a lot of parallel, so make this parallel to that, this parallel to that. And they're really just trying to get you comfortable with some of these activities. Some of these I wouldn't necessarily do it the way that they have you do it, and some of these commands have been improved in the later version. Let's see if we can illustrate that. I believe if we select this and hold the control key down and pick multiples, and then do parallel, and I can do one target. So that's pretty cool. There's some other commands that work that way as well. If you hit the help docs, equals works that way now, and parallel works that way. This is usually where I like to show people the difference with dimensioning. If you try to dimension this from here to here, you'll get either a horizontal aligned, or if you hold the shift key down, you'll get a distance between aligned. But if you wanted it to be lined up with this particular vector, you'd have to use use dimension axis is the method that you would have to choose. But actually, distance between, when you choose by 2 points and you just click near the ends, it kind of uses the vectors of the elements as alignment. So that's kind of one of the differences with that dimensioning tool. Good to know about. And I'm not going to do this. I'm going to let the activity fill in the details. I just wanted to get you started with this. Hit the high points, and again we close out and hit finish. This is another sketching activity. They're going to mostly have you learn about creating symmetry. So I'm going to click it and edit profile. Takes me into here. So if I created copies, so this command will create geometry or move geometry. So the copy button is pushed in. So if I pick this and then I pick an axis, it will actually create a copy of it, but it also puts a little relationship on there. Okay. And if you manually drew one down here, I'll just manually put another one over here, and just some arbitrary circles will, if we want to manually apply, when I start the symmetric, the first thing it says in the prompt is click a symmetry axis. So let's do side to side, and I'll click this and this. So those two are now symmetric. But what if I wanted to do it vertically? You have to use the other button, which is to change the symmetry axis. You see that little circle appear, and now you can run the other command, which is symmetric, make things symmetric. This and this can be symmetric, and this can be symmetric. So that, I think I've got an alignment there between those two elements. This is causing a little bit of a problem, so I'm just going to delete that. Go ahead, and I'm going to do it in the other order. The other order, I'm going to say, make this small element symmetric to that element. So the first thing that you click usually is what moves. I don't usually focus on that too much, because if it moves, it's because it's under constrained, and you really just need to put more dimensions on there. But you see that we've created symmetry about two axes, and that's the main point you want to get from this activity, that there are two buttons to apply and to redefine the symmetry axis, and that this command, when you use it, will actually automatically create the symmetry. And you can delete them after if you wanted to just click and delete those little symbols. So that's just ordered sketching. So the main difference is you go in and out of the profile environment. Then of course if you wanted to do an extrude, and we'll cover this later, you would select from that sketch and maybe you'd grab some of the interiors and you'd make a solid out of it. But we'll get to that. So that's sketching in the ordered